Hello and welcome back to my channel where we play Minecraft and Minecraft exclusively. It's nice to see you. Thank you for joining me on this journey to craft all of the things and do all of the mining. I literally never thought I would ever be a Minecraft streamer. I'm like literally shocking. Also, the fact that I streamed 3 days in a row this weekend, fucking shocking. I even tried to stream more, but then like I had to stay at work and you know, shit happened. Shit happened. R.I.P. me. Couldn't mine all of the mines. Um, bro, I fucking hated Minecraft. I've only tried to play it a handful of times, and I couldn't do it. And now here I am, like, what the fuck? What am I doing? I'm mining. I'm crafting. Anyways, for those of you who are joining me, hi, it's nice to see you. I hope you have a great time with me tonight as I work on this monstrous build of a pink house. I'm also gonna I'm not playing the chill playlist tonight because I'm feeling chatty and annoying. So while I'm mining, I'm going to regale you with tales of grandeur. And by that I mean I'm about to be really fucking annoying. So there's that. Let me think. Pause. Is it this one? Fuck yeah, I was right. Okay. Cool, 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 cool. I might have to adjust that. What is she doing? What are we doing? Okay, that's good. That's a good spot. So we're playing fucking Porter Robinson. This is gonna be a good time, bro. That was an aggressive entrance sound. I just forgot. I just remembered something. I was not ready to wait. I need to go do something really quick. Not physically. It's okay. I'm here. There's something more important to me than the mines right now, and that is collecting currency to buy a house in a different game. Oh my god, I just realized I'm fucking stupid. All of you out there watching this right now as a VOD, go put on your own playlist in the background. Don't watch this in silence. Make it your own fucking playlist. Mine might be gone, but yours could be there. That's beautiful. That's how we should do it. Put on a playlist. Do it right now. You need background noise. It'll be so good. Why do I have mail? Oh, okay. Take that. Thank you. I want that currency too. Oh, I forgot I wanted to do that too. I need to stop. Get off. Log off. Log the fuck off. You can do that later when you're laying in bed. Right now, it's time to mine. My hand looks kind of funny, actually. I think it's just because, like, it's two shades of pink, for like my hoodie and my skin, and then obviously you see the shadow. But it looks so it looks so goofy. It looks like it's shading on shading, like I don't have a hoodie on. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I think it looks better this way, maybe. I think it looks better from afar. As I said, don't understand Minecraft color theory, so my hair is a checkered flag, basically. Love that for me. Shit, why is there a creeper out right now? It's the middle of the day, bro. Here, help me. Come on. Oh man, you missed the stone, bro. Gotta put dirt back? That's brown wool. What the fuck? Must be something wrong with me. I think today I actually need to focus on resources. I really, really want them to drop petals, and it's pissing me off. If they don't, like, collect, I'm gonna be really fucking mad, actually. Maybe if I get rid of the grass. I would think they would, right? Because these don't look right. The ones that I planted. And honestly, I'm gonna be so for real. My favorite part about the cherry blossom area is all of the petals on the ground. It just looks nice, okay? Also, the grass just looks bad, you know? No more grass. Why are there flowers growing over there? That's crazy. Hi, Sif! It's nice to see you. How are you? I didn't know that they would just start popping flowers, too. Why is the grass so fucking tall? What the fuck? Get out! Okay. Resources. We need resources. I need to make a spot to mine, and I know I'm not gonna find anything, but... Ooh, just got back from the gym. Nice, nice. We love to see it. I also just realized if I do my wraparound porch that I want, I'm gonna have to get rid of a bunch of that shit. 13 minutes in. How's the house? Well, it's very, very pink, as you can see. Um, I might have to make different doors, maybe. I don't know. The floor is gonna be birchwood. I still need to dig out the foundation. I was gonna make a shovel. That's what I'm doing here. Yes. I don't know. It's going. I think it's probably big enough. Yeah, I'm gonna have a basement down there. Last time you played was before the pink trees. Yeah, so I've never really played, and I think the only reason that I'm going strong is because of the pink trees. It, like, gave me a purpose, if I'm being honest. I was like, I want to make a house out of that. That's what I'm gonna do. Because I've never been able to play before, honestly. But they're so pretty, look. I'm like, I have to transplant them down here because I think they only really grow in the mountains. But they're so pretty. If you get somewhere where they actually come from, there's petals all over. Yeah, they're all over. Oh, maybe I'm stupid. Maybe the ones I planted do look right. Okay. I'll just have to let them, like, grow more. I'll have to transplant more. Okay, cool. Me too. So I need to take the mountain in a little bit, which might look a little funny, but that's fine, I guess. So I want a wraparound porch. And I really just said that I'm gonna focus on fucking materials and then got distracted. I love that for me. It's okay. I need to do this to find the spot where I will be mining. It'll be fine. I want to make like a mine entrance outside of my house to find nothing because I'm sure everything's shit here, right? That's how that's gonna work. Okay. And then that can just kind of... Oh, that looks so awkward. better. It'll be fine. I think I want the porch to be 3 squares wide. Okay, and I don't fucking remember how many squares. I'm so dumb. I guess I'll go find more birch wood. Is the sun setting? No! Because then if I find birch wood, at least I can count out where I'm putting the fucking back door. See, they look funny. Maybe they'll grow okay. Meh. I also don't have a roof yet because I'm gonna have a second floor and I need more birch wood. But I will get there. Eventually. Meh. Oh, what the fuck? Again? Oh my god. I fucking killed him because he wouldn't get out of my house. Are we for real? What the fuck? What the fuck? Oh my fucking god. Are they gonna make me kill him again? I'm so mad. Let's see if he has anything else in his inventory this time. Let's see if it's anything different. I cannot believe he fucking respawned. I'm so annoyed. And it's different, but I don't really give a fuck. Also, I don't have money, so, you know. I hate you. Apparently, I have a fucking roommate. And he doesn't even pay rent. He makes me pay him for items. Wow, what a dick. I wonder if he'll figure out how to go around. Probably not, he's fucking stupid. If I come back and my house is full of enemies, I'm gonna be fucking mad. See if I remember where to- Oh, I'm fucking starving, bro. I need... Do I have any more food? Raw chicken. Fuck yeah, I do have more food. Right. Okay, I don't know if I remember where the birch trees were, so that's fun, and I'm probably gonna get lost on my way home again. I should take the travel bed. Yes, I have a travel bed. I know how to camp. I remember there being birch trees somewhere on the mountain. I really do not remember where. I should have made a fucking new axe too. God damn it. Maybe I'll hit the other workbench before I get up there. Oh, I could go mine in there. Where's my workbench? I thought it was over here. What did I do with my fucking workbench? Oh my god. Makes a travel workbench. I need to Google how to make a map, actually. That would be good for me to have. Oh my god, and then I could put markers down for where the birch trees are and where my house is separately. and I would know how to get places. I can't decide if I want Acadia for anything. Acadia? The orange bitches. I fucking keep forgetting I want to make a boat. That would make it easier to find everything, actually. Ominous! There's literally a fucking doorway! I'm never gonna be able to find this again. I don't fucking need to make it too wide, just keep going. Do I have torches with me? I do, okay. We're good. Listen, I didn't want to change tools. Wait till you see me beat a fucking tree down with stone blocks, even though I have tools. It was one tool over! But I was like attacking both there was also stone. Okay, this isn't the mission I was on. Let's go. Let's go back for a moment. This is such a cool area. I'm never gonna be able to find it again. It looks like ah! You're right. It's a waste of the fucking pickaxe. You're so right. I'll learn. I've learned my lesson. I will do better. Where the fuck are those birch trees, dude? Am I gonna have to go over there again? I don't want to go all the way over there. Fuck it. Okay, I'm making a boat. Do I have to have a craft table for that? I don't remember. What is the boat? Boat. No, fuck me, okay. I probably do need the craft table, god damn it. Get the iron. Yeah, I wanted to do, like, actually go resource hunting today, because I have no iron. I've just been using shit this whole time. So, well, I found a little bit, and then I wasted the tools immediately, as one does. Boat. Yes. Oh, fuck you. Give me the fucking... Fuck you. Give it back! Okay. No! You're right! It was right there! I had one thing in mind, and that was it. And that was to walk away. The creeper it distracted me heavily. Okay, well now I have a boat, so I guess I'll stop here. Which I really didn't need to use my boat to do that, but that's fine. We'll come back. I know I'm gonna forget where it is if I don't take it with me. That's a suspicious torch. What the fuck is that? Moss? Oh, glowing moss. Okay, got it. That's a very suspicious torch. Taking it. Man. There's a guy here. I wonder if there's anything in there. Ayo. It's okay, look, I found more. I found a bunch. That's what this is, right? Or is this fucking copper? This is copper, huh? It is fucking copper. A jellyfish? I don't want to die, hang on. There's a lot going on down here. Oh my god. Oh, are those like colored squid? Maybe octopus? Or are they supposed to be jellyfish? I want to explore, but I'll die. Oh, can I eat air bubbles? Air bubbles? Fuck yes! They're sparkly. Ah! No! Come here. Yes! Okay, and there's fucking gold here. Get some air, get some air. Air, but at what cost? I can't. I don't even know if I can mine gold with this shitty pickaxe. Okay, pro strats, pro strats. Not pro strats, not pro strats, not pro strats, not pro strats, I'm gonna die. You dumb bitch. Get out of my house. No, no! Is my house big enough that they're far away? Fuck yeah. Well, that was a very tragic ending. I forgot that I'm never gonna recover my tools, so, yeah, that's cool. I have no wood. Fuck off! Get out! The door's right here! Fuck off! Oh my god. I forgot I can make a crossbow. Maybe I should do that. You bitch. What the fuck did I just unlock? I'm Googling how to make a map. Minecraft map. It's asking me if I'm an adult or a child. Okay, I need paper and a compass, so I'm missing a compass. Do I have to iron ingot and redstone dust? Okay, I haven't encountered redstone, so that's my problem. When you hear the old phrase "curiosity killed the cat," that was literally me trying to swim and dying. So I wanted to see what was down there. Shake my head. If I like leave them floating as I have been, do they grow back? Do they disappear? Do they just stay there forever? No. Thank you. It's life upon a throne. Oh fuck, I'm out of food too now. Well, I have chicken, I guess, that I cooked. Oh, I need sticks. Right. Okay, and then I can make Gex. Oh yeah, I don't have any of that shit. Shovel. Oh, AO? I have a bow? One of them must have dropped it. Cool. Okay. I'll take it. Okay, and my boat! And my craft bench and my bed! Alright, I don't have any wool. Guess I'll die. Okay, birchwood. I didn't get the chicken. I'm fucking dumb. Whatever, I'll hunt on the way. And just fucking eat raw meat. I don't know. Ayo, I found the shit on the mountain. The boat was the way to go. Excellent. My long ass arms. And there's so many animals for me to kill. Meh, meh, meh. Ah! Where? What the fuck? What the fuck? Where is it? Come out and face me! What the fuck? I'm ignoring it. It's probably in the mountain. Or something. I don't know. Okay. Man. Oh, fuck yeah, one hit. Bitch. Oh my god. Oh, I bet he was in here! Those animals are brave. I suppose I'll take it. I really don't need more copper, I don't think, but it's fine. It's a, you know, it's something. When I'm about to make the same mistake a second time. Get up! Oh fuck, I don't have any torches. It's fine, that was a dead end. It's fine. Shut up! There he is! Die! Thank you. XP. Chickens laying eggs. I don't know, I just think it's cool to like explore the like naturally made caves and see what's going on. You know? I just think it's neat. What is this? Gravel? New recipes unlocked. Okay, I don't need any fucking copper. Stop wasting your pickaxe, bitch. What is these? Do I have some of that? I think I might. I must. That was cool. I don't know how I'm gonna get back. Oh, I don't have any fucking coal. Actually, for real. Okay, what am I holding? Oh, it's not gravel? Diorite? What does that look like? Hold up. We can turn it into like a solid block? Yes, this is what I want. That looks like fucking marble. Excellent. This it? Excellent. Should probably eat something. Imagine being that bitch that eats a whole fucking raw chicken. That's not enough? Well, now I definitely have salmonella. Let me make, I think I can just make a torch, right? Yeah, okay, thank you. I hit the fucking mother load, bro. Maybe if I cooked it. Oh, that makes it more food too, or like more sustenance. That's noted. Good to know. I just didn't want to make a fucking furnace, to be honest. I should have taken the fucking chicken from the house, but I forgot. I know, it's because of my terraforming. I need to trash it. I'm so excited. Look at this shit. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I was being lazy. It's not a matter of materials. I was just being fucking lazy. But apparently, obviously, it's definitely worth it. I just thought, it doesn't make me sick, so raw meat's fine, right? Me, there's so much rock and wood around me. In the chest at home, oh, I know. There's so much. I need to throw it away. Dude, I'm gonna come home with so much of this shit. I'm so excited. This should be my new floor? Fuck. Well, now I have to make a craft table. Shit. Guess I'll die. Stick. I need to throw it away. Comes back home with a metric fuck ton of extra stuff. But it's different! It's prettier. It's for my house. Look, it's gonna look like that. I'm gonna have marble. You know? Nice. It's gonna be so good. Ooh, coal. I know that's not like a coveted resource, but I literally have none, so, you know, we love to see it. Also, XP, cool. You know? I'll take it. Somewhere far away. What the fuck is that? What the fuck? Are there aliens in this game? Can't believe Sif is sleeping on this bitchin' interior design scheme. Okay, how much do I have? This is a lot. Okay. Bruh, you fucking bitch. Really? Ooh, stone bricks. Interesting. How do I, like, make a bunch all at once? There we go! Got it. Oh, I don't know. That might not be enough, bro. You'd be surprised how much shit this is taking me. So I can't let this treasure trove go unwondered. I'm stupid. Why am I not healing? What the fuck? Thanks. I can't wait to find something that I think is prettier than this and then have to completely redo my house again. It's gonna be great. I'm like, is it really pretty? nice. I've been thinking about like getting texture pack mods, but I'm terrified that I'm gonna like install some and then they're gonna make the like materials I used on my house look like absolute ass cheeks and I'll be devastated. You know what I'm saying? I wish I could like mine 4 squares at a time. That'd be nice. Get like a mega pickaxe. And now I'm gonna have a bunch of birch wood I don't fucking need. Can I like, there we go. How much do I have? 5 stacks? Should be fine, right? Maybe not. I should have mathed like the square footage of my house. Can't believe I didn't do that again. Shit. Oh shit, I can do that? Oh my god, holy shit. That's so much nicer. Little longer, everything goes on. I think my house is like 30 some squares wide. I'm making a fucking monstrosity, dude. This is gonna take so many materials. Why am I so greedy? Everything goes on. There it is again. What the fuck? So what if I get a texture pack and the bees are ugly? Then I might die. Okay, that's fine for now, I guess. Where? That's where it came from. Yes. Okay. Oh yeah, I was lost in this giant cavern. Oops, oops. What is happening? I'm getting stuck on my sleeve like shit. Can I like... No? Okay, that's fine. It's my table. Okay, something tells me that's not gonna get me anywhere. Oh, damn it. Am I gonna have to dig my fucking way out of this? Oh my god. I wonder if I can't see any light because it's nighttime? Ah! Maybe that's where I came from? I think this looks promising. Yes. Fuck. Fuck. No, that's right. Yeah. I swam in here, didn't I? No. Okay, cool. Nothing. My fucking god. Okay. These glowing plants are gonna piss me off. So I learned my lesson. I should actually leave torches as a guide. Shut up. He has a baby. It's a whole family. Fuck! What happened in 2012? Little Minecraft baby? Ah, I had so much stuff. Oh, it's nighttime. Is that when it came out? Ew, y'all are fucking loud. That's why I killed his ass. They're loud and annoying. Okay, again, I have no wood. It's okay, I'm gonna take some birchwood. Now that I've realized I don't want birchwood. Give. Gonna make a really bold decision. Or was it? Bruh. I had so much shit. Oh my fucking god, bro. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I totally swam in, right? Oh, maybe I didn't. That was a dead end. And then I went this way? This way. I was so close. How the fuck? Oh my god. Okay, my shit's right there. Fuck you. Please die. Please, please die. I have no beef with you. I'm so sorry. Okay. That one was polite. Thank you for waiting for me. Are you just gonna chill there? Please say yes. Yes! Okay, okay, we're Gucci, we're Gucci. Sorry, bye. I'm so sorry about your wife. Oh boy, okay. Well, that was enough adventure for me. Let's go home for a minute. Um, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now I have a backup boat. I cannot believe I was that close to the fucking entrance. Also can't believe that spider just let me fucking go. It makes me want to get my spider back out. Teehee. Okay. Let's go here. I just remembered, didn't I find lapis lazuli the other day? Did I end up dying with it? Get out of my fucking house. I hate you. Oh my god. He had me going. There he is. My boy. Cannot believe you're still in my fucking house! Okay, whatever. I don't know what I should pick things up with. Is that a waste of the pickaxe? Kind of. That took forever. Oh my god. Okay. I should have, like, blocked him in when he was, like, almost out of my house. I really said I'm gonna find resources, and all I found was fucking shit to make my floor. Get out. Please. Oh my god. What will happen to his fucking llamas? Hang on, let me just... Please get out. Get out. Please. I'm begging you. Ah! Don't come back in! Don't come back in! Don't come back in! Get out! Get out! Oh my god! No! Fuck off! Oh, this guy is my fucking nemesis. I hate you. Get out of my fucking house. Get out of my fucking house! Oh my god. Fuck you. Okay, listen. This is what we're doing. Get out. Get out, get out, get out, get out, get out. I got this. I got it. I got it. We're gonna, it's fine. It'll be fine. Okay, no, fuck! Ah! That's him. I can't see him. Oh my fucking god. You're a fucking bitch. For real. Oh, my keyboard just died. Oh, fuck yeah, fuck yeah. Okay. They actually walked out. Holy shit. Before they come back. I don't care that it's different. It's fine. I'll fix it later. When he fucking leaves. Okay, while I'm getting rained on, oh yeah, I'm gonna run out of this really fast. Oops. At least I know where to find more, I guess. It's pretty close. I'm careful. It's giving bank flooring, if I'm being honest. Ah! Oopsie! We'll just, it's fine. We'll patchwork it for now. We'll fix it. It'll be fine. Where am I gonna put the stairs? Actually, I don't know. Oopsie, oopsie, oopsie. Give. Oops. Ba, 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 ba. He will never be able to get back in. He is banned! I wonder if he's still fucking hanging out outside. Idiot. Stupid bitch. Oh, I can probably make an axe. Huh. Let me do that. That'll help with that shit. No? Oh, I probably need more sticks. There. Oh my god, I just realized something. I've been hanging out like no one's ever gonna see these again. Because I can't post them on YouTube because of the music. I can download my Twitch VODs, and they don't have the music, and then I can do whatever I want with them. And then everyone can see my fucking evict that bitch shenanigans, maybe. I don't know. It'll be a little treat for me, at least. Oh, it's so quiet over here. Wow, I love that. Shut up! Disturbing my fucking peace, bro. Oops. What the fuck? What was that? Oops. I fell. Teehee. Oops. Oh my god. What am I doing? And where are my stairs gonna go? Oh my god. I knew this wasn't even gonna get me one fucking floor done. I should really map out the square footage. That would be helpful. Also, I'm fucking dumb. You know how I can judge where I'm putting my fucking back door? Even. Stupid idiot. Put it right here. It'll be pink for now. They'll match. Merp. Cool. Really? Maybe I should fucking finish the floor first! Shut up. That'll be nice. Oh, I don't have a fucking shovel. Fuck. Thinking. Okay. Good enough for now. God, my house is fucked up. Oh. It's all I got. Okay, Hey, the porch. Is that gonna be the cutest thing? Let me look up what kinds of wood they have. Maybe, yeah, okay, you're good. There are striped logs? What does that mean? What does that one look like? I think birch might be the way to go. Can you show me, like, what? Oh my god, you fucking bitch. Minecraft wood plank, plank pipes. Perfect. Okay, let's see. Oh, there's a purple one and a blue one? Shits myself. Fuck. What are those? Maybe I should do the orange? I don't know if the orange would look good. Why does mine look like that? Is it like an update where the colored block patches are weird? I kind of want to try the orange just because, like, it's giving lesbian. Let's go grab some and look and just see. It's kind of dark, so I don't know. But the purple's kind of dark too. So if I try to go with the purple, like... Plus that's probably, like, fucking hard to find. Isn't it? What is the purple? Purple wood. Um... Was it in the nether? Yes, it's in the fucking nether, so that's never gonna happen, bro. Whatever. We're gonna move on for now. Because I don't even know how to get there. How do I even get there? I just died in a little cave. You think I could go back to hell? I don't have any more sugar cane. Let's stop for a moment. Thank you. Did I drop any? I don't know. Whatever. Step 1, get diamonds. Easy. Ah, yeah, I probably should get some armor, huh? I'm gonna be ugly. I kinda wanna go in there. We'll see on the way back. Real step 1. Get iron. Damn, the forest is expansive. Did I, like, miss my turn? Where am I? Is my fucking island bigger than I thought it was? Yeah, maybe that's the problem. Island's fucking huge. What the hell? Meh, meh. Are those cedar? What the? Why is this taking longer than it took me to, like, cross over the mountain? Somalia, Somalia. I had to have missed my fucking turn, right? Am I lost on the open ocean right now? I'm gonna take a peek. I don't think you're what I need. No. Fuck you. Oh, there's another village right there! I really think I am not going in the direction that I need to go. Okay. Damn! My fucking mountain is really that goddamn big? That I'm gonna have to fucking hike there? What the fuck? Jesus! Oh my god! My mountain must be, like, very oblong. And this is, like, the long side. What's that? Purple? Purple? Damn it. Don't kill me. I just want breathe, bro. I want the chest. Okay. Go, go! Go! What is that? Gold armor, bitch. Gold shovel, iron nuggets! Hell yeah! Okay, just die a little bit, you'll be fine. There's a bunch of purple down there! Can I eat in here? Nice. Okay. Yeah, my mouth's fucking huge. Oh my god. He's still out here, Jesus fucking Christ. Okay. What did I just get? I guess I'll fucking be unfashionable. Golden carrot. What does that do? Oh yeah, I was trying to hike. That's what I was doing. Okay. I think I got them fashionable ass shiny pants. The fucking what the fuck's his name? Hammer Time? You know what I'm talking about. MC Hammer? I got the MC Hammer going on. Okay, and then I will fucking hike again. But I will take my boat with me so that I can get across when I get there. I need more food. Teehee. But I don't have anything. Oh yeah, I do. Right there. Idiot. Good enough for now. Okay. Whack. You bitch. Eh. Oh my god, I think I have it down. Maybe I should just let them blow up. Jesus. Another one? My trees are too shady. No! No! I hate a year, bro! Oh my god, my house has been compromised. I'm gonna have to do another dirt transplant. Oh my god. God damn it. Oh my god, wait! That's it! It's right fucking there! You know that fucking worked for nothing. Oh my god. Might not like it. Might be bad. Give. Oh my god, my pockets are full. Fuck off! drop. Okay, the fuck I need that for, right? Fuck that. What is that? Gunpowder! Oh, okay. Fuck the granite. Fuck that shit. Pull on me. So I mean, I could take it. Oh. Is that the stuff? No, it's fucking gravel, huh? Fuck that. We have gravel? Yes. Fuck that shit. I don't want fucking gravel. Get out of my face. Oh, right. My pockets are full. I can't kill that cow. Hi, Jams! How are you? Nice to see you again. Okay. Moment of truth. Fucking... I didn't fucking pick it up! Oh my god. I'm also chilling. I'm doing pretty good. I'm not getting a lot done, but... You're kidding! Bro! Oh my god! My prayers have been answered. Holy fuck. It's gonna make fucking excavating my basement so much faster. Don't touch it. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Meh. 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 Okay. I got a fucking gold shovel. I found it in a chest underwater, and I just used it for the first time, and it, you know, it blasted that shit, bro. It's gonna be so good. Okay, I don't know if I'm gonna like the lesbian core design, but I'm gonna look at it. We're gonna see. What's this? That's kind of... Hang on. I don't fucking need this much dirt. Get out of my face. Is that granite? Yeah, I don't think that looks pink when I put it down though, huh? It's like, it's too pumpkin. Too Halloween. Where's the granite? Yeah, it looks brown now. Like, what for? Hang on. Nah, I'm gonna do the birch. If I drop stuff, will it, like, disappear? Durability of gold is sussy. Of course it is. God damn it. Or if I drop it, will it just, like, stay forever? Wherever the fuck I dropped it. Also, I can't believe the creeper did that much fucking damage. Are we kidding? When I try to get it to help me with this shit, it takes out, like, 2 fucking blocks. That's BS. I'm doing a wraparound porch, and I think it's gonna be really cute. It looks so nice. Okay, that makes sense, actually. Damn. The girl cave. Look! Marble floors! I'm so excited. So I'm like ripping all this shit out now. It's gonna be a whole thing, but yeah, it is what it is. Let's pick these up. I'm really scared to pick up my chest. Like, is it just gonna drop everything? Is that how that works? Crafting table and the furnace. For now, I think I'm gonna put them like here and we can pretend this is like a kitchen. Okay, boop. Oh, you're right. That took a huge chunk out of my fucking shovel. Damn. You whore. Why did it take out 4 blocks the first time? What? And now it's gonna break. What's my... There it goes. Okay, it's dark as fuck in here. Meh. Well, it was nice while it lasted, I guess. Were you here last time when I was fighting with the fucking merchant that was in my house and I killed him? Because I woke up and he was in my house again. He fucking respawned in my house. Been watching too many modded Minecraft videos and you thought a cave dweller was gonna jump scare? Yeah, I was really fucking mad. This time, I didn't kill him, and I waited for him to, like, get out of my house. But it was a whole thing. Hate that bitch. Launch. Ah! Shovel! I should probably decide where the fuck I'm putting my stairs. Had to backtrack like 2 hours. In Baldur's Gate? I would cry, actually. I also feel I'm doing this instead of my fucking assignments, so. Teehee. Wait, hold the fuck up. Interesting. Why would they let me do that? What's the point in doing that? You try not saving every 5 seconds like normal. Oh my god, I forgot the struggle. That was like my biggest fucking problem. I literally never save. I feel for you, bro. I'm so sorry. That's so... I need to like learn my lesson, and we need to learn very different lessons. You're trying not to save every 2 seconds. I need to learn how to save before every fight. I don't know. I don't know why. I'm so... I just don't think about it. I don't know. Autosave ruined me, honestly. what's crunching? And it's not my dirt. It's a fucking spider. Why do they sound like that? Is that what you guys sound like? Why do they sound like that? I wonder if I could get a mod for cute spiders and docile spiders and like have one in my house. Except that's what I'm saying. Like, is that what you sound like, bro? He says. I keep getting distracted from my goals and like working on something completely unrelated. Like, I would not have been doing this if I hadn't gotten that fucking shovel. Shit. And now here I am, like, okay, I have to finish it. Okay, let me go transplant some of this dirt. Hi. We're gonna come out here somewhere you can't hurt my house. Yeah, this is kind of annoying. I would almost prefer they just blow up. He's on my roof! Good thing I made a roof. The fuck? My roof isn't done. What if he gets into my house? He's gonna get into my house. No, he's not, because he wants to come fight. Come here! Yeah, come here! He just fucking took fall damage, dude. What the fuck? Okay, I'm actually hungry. I probably shouldn't be doing this. Oh, I do need those tools. That would be good. I think it's really funny that Corpse is so obsessed with Misa Amane. Discuss. Like, understandable, dude, but the amount of times she cameos in his songs is pretty funny to me. You know? There's a lot of creepers over there having some kind of congregation. Oh, he must be mourning his lost brother over here. That's what that one's doing. Meh. Meh. There he goes, that dumb bitch. Well, I guess I'll plant more dirt here too. Oops. Oh, go away. Ah! Okay, go away. I have too much dirt. Thank you. Yeah, show it whatever. Ooh, that's a lot of stuff I could be making. The fuck do buttons do? That's ugly, bro. I think I need signs whenever I get a fucking map. Okay, so for a bow, we need more sticks and more strings. I really want to make sure. Oh, fuck! I forgot I have a bunch of iron! I think I'm gonna use that. It's more expendable. Yeah, okay. Spider eye. What's the... a loom? Fermented spider eye, delicious. Sorry, buddy, close your eyes. You can't hear anything. Shh. It's okay. Okay, what What do I have in my pockets right now? Okay, I can work on that. Yes, I need to trash a lot of stuff. My copper could probably stack. Oh, or not. Fuck me. R.I.P. Moving that's gonna be a pain in the fucking ass. What's that? Flint? Oh my god. Whatever. I'll deal with it later. Okay, but now should I not do pink stairs? Should I do white stairs? Maybe. Maybe. We'll see. Where'd my shovel go? Oh, right, it broke. I needed to make another one. That's what I came upstairs for. On my roof, breaking. Just fucking exploding on the roof. Let's finish that. So to finish this, we really need to figure out where I'm putting my stairs, and also I need to move the fucking chest somewhere. Everyone's supposed. Monster Heart. Monster Heart. What does monsters do? True Monster Heart. Humans. Humans are the worst and we're the best. Loudly sets my phone down. No one would believe him if his heart was half untrue. If I break the shit under my fucking chest, is it gonna hang out? I should probably, like, fucking... I need to get more resource for my flooring. Ultimate. And, of course, I'm gonna break my fucking shovel again. Should I make the room taller? Is this too short-ceilinged? Is your lettuce monsters too? I think it might be too short. Am I really gonna remove all of— Get it! Find somewhere else to hang out! Am I really gonna undo all of this work to make my house taller? I don't know. Should I? Shut up. Stupid fucking llamas. Let me see how I feel about a roof here. That'd be good. I think that would be really nice, actually. Or would it be too tall? 3 is just kind of like... Maybe 3 is just right. I'm gonna leave it for now. We're not gonna come back to this, actually, because I'm not redoing all of that work. 3 is fine. 3 is fucking fine. Shut up. What a dumb bitch. No, go away. Fuck you. The fuck? This guy's so impolite. Fuck? Okay. What the fuck? Me realize it. Oh no, you can see it from the inside, right? I don't think you can. I just wasted all of these. Actually. So you won't even be able to see them. Yeah, for real. Oh well. I think I want the porch to be 3 wide. Go big or go home. And go big in your home. Wasteful. Pick it up. Get out. You are unwelcome here, bro. Okay, I need more of that. It's from inside the house if I go find more materials for the floor. Shut up. I don't think I'm gonna be able to decide where I want to put the stairs until I have walls up. So for now, this is gonna come upstairs. I don't know why that was related. It really wasn't. This is going to be on the 2nd floor eventually when I get there. Okay, let's see. I also don't want that. That can fuck off. That can fuck off. I'd have too much dirt. I don't know. No, no. How much, like, regular stone do I have? Like a fair amount. Probably more than enough, so I can probably just get rid of my cobblestone, too. No! I hope this disappears. I want it to fuck off, bro. Mm, wrong way. Okay, Merp. I need food. Gotta go back. What the what? Oh my god. Wrong fucking... Wait, no, right? Is that wrong? I'm confused. I thought that's how I smelted iron. Right? Why isn't it smelting? Oh yeah, I have gold carrots. I don't understand why the iron isn't... Oh, because it's not raw. Okay. Got it. It isn't raw. It has to be raw. What am I gonna do with nuggets? What's that gonna do to me? For me? Mm. How dumb. Oh, right. I moved it upstairs. Okay. Why is he so fucking loud, bro? Oh, I think that's gravel. This isn't it, is it? No, that's still cobblestone. Fuck you. Oh, fucking goddamn it. I think that's what I'm looking for. Maybe. Maybe not. No, it's fucking cobblestone still. Okay. What the fuck did that shit look like? I forgot. And the thing is somewhere around here. Where is it? I want a fucking map. Oh my god! It's a 5-star village out here. I probably wouldn't give it 5 stars, but go off. Interesting. Really is just the luck of the draw every time I find this, huh? Oh, it's right here. Oh, fuck. And I do not remember what way I went to find that fucking wonderful little... Hey, let's go. Okay, let's get it. I mean, that's cobblestone. I'm stupid. Why is there a mouse in here? The fuck? So this is what I'm making my floors and my ceilings out of. I'm pretending it's marble. Wow. I should have brought my backup craft table. I'm dumb. Leaves a craft table in this fucking mine. Oops. Okay. Good for me. There's so much, bro. Ah. Okay, let's see. What the fuck is that? Oh, interesting. I'm not doing that. Fuck you. Okay, that's not nearly enough. Oh my goodness. I should have kept that useless dirt. I did not foresee that it would come in handy. Shit! I need stone. I'm dumb. Give. The fuck? Shit. Is that not there, right? What is happening? Bro, I need cobblestone. What is happening? Give me some cobblestone. Is it because I'm like... Why isn't it fucking dropping anything? What? The fuck is happening? Okay. Yes. Okay. Wrong way? Maybe? Yes. Okay. So fucking confused. Oh no, no! What the fuck? I don't understand. Oh my god. Okay, ah. Did I leave my boat? Yeah, I did, okay. I don't know why I'm going all the way back, if I'm being honest. I don't, they're like, there's no way I need to. I don't understand why it's not spawning anything. I'm so confused, like, genuinely. Oh, I was gonna go back for more stone, duh. And I might as well just get all this shit, whatever. No! I was gonna use that for climbing and shit, but I guess I'll die. I'll take a stack. Ew, shut up. Perfect. Okay. Oh my god, I'm holding an egg in the other hand? What? I can dual wield? The fuck? Okay, now. Not you. You're fine. Oops. Sure, whatever, do that. And it is this way? Yeah, so I mean that's fine, whatever. Okay. I didn't want to know how to get the egg out that hand. Okay. Okay. Now. Jump, please. Perfect. Too far? Okay, that's fine. Ah! Chicken. I don't even know how I did that, bro. I wonder how many blocks I can reach. Like, how far away? Oh, that's what's up. Okay. The shield pocket. Noted. Give. Might as well just kill it, I guess. Please give me food. No! It was too young! Okay, leave a torch so I know where I'm going. And that's pretty obvious now, I'd say. Which is good. So maybe I won't get lost. Digging myself a deeper pit real quick. Okay, I know there's more this way, so... Not to worry. I'll just let that stay there. Like, fuck off. You're annoying. I don't want to deal with, like, the fucking current this whole time I'm mining. So I will leave that. Is there more down this way? Maybe not. Oh wait, that's it, right? No, that's fucking gravel! I don't need more fucking copper. Fucking gravel. Okay, I guess. Stupid current. I guess this is fine, it's doable. Are you running out of water? No, there it goes. The fuck? Damn, I should have left those ones. I could have, like, you know, made that a little mining cove. Okay, how much do I have? That's an okay amount. We can always come back. Now that I know where to go. This one? Yes. Hey. If bad for you, why delicious? You know? I actually know someone who cannot eat Red 40 because he's allergic to it. R.I.P. Okay. No Shirley temples. A travesty, honestly. Maybe if we made the Shirley temple like out of cherry instead of, you know, right? We could do that. That's something. The way I'm about to bury my chest. These are from when I was trying to exterminate the pest in my home. Didn't think that through. Okay, we're good. Now I can finally finish my roof without falling through the floor. If I have enough blocks, I suppose. I might not. Oh yeah, I broke my fucking pickaxe. Let me make a new one. Why did I make that many? I'm dumb. Whatever. Yeah, fuck. Okay, yeah, sure. I'm getting in the habit of pressing fucking shift, and I'm really about to make as many pickaxes as humanly possible. Okay. They say I had since 2020. One day I will. I sure could let you leave. Right now I'm drunk. Right now I'm wasted. I really did not bring nearly enough with me. I hate it here. One day I will. Again, I should be counting and doing the math. $33. 33.18. Jesus. There's 594. It's fucking 594 cubic feet. Bro. Oh, this is such a big project. What have I done? Jesus fucking Christ. I need to tear up the floor. I should probably wait till I have more of this, because then I'm gonna start falling through the floor. As one does. And I need to take all this out, too. Sure would have been nice if they put the fucking deodorite or whatever the fuck under my house, huh? That would have been nice. The sound of a skeleton wandering in through the basement. Smurf. It actually would have been so funny if I left the fucking basement as the stone. Like, haha, this is my unfinished basement. Giving it some white walls. Well, that's my cue. Get the fuck out the basement. Okay, let's see. It's 3 tall, so... Oh my god, that bee scared the shit out of me! Where did he come from? Oh yeah, I forgot. I have to go, like... Yeah. Okay. Merp, merp. Perfect. Are bees just flying through the hole in my roof right now? He's like, I heard you like bees. Do you want house bees? He's pollinating my basement. Look at his little pollen butt. He's lost and he's stuck. Oh my god. Can I put a lead on him? Is that something I can do? I want to help him out. Poor little guy. Oh, wrong thing. Wrong thing. Did I ever... We'll look in a second. I'm pretty sure I probably did. Can I, like, help my mans out? This poor little guy. Come here, buddy. Come here. No? Yes! Oh, fuck yeah! I could be a bee wrangler if I wanted. Hi, baby! Here you go. Here you go. Go do your job, baby. Thank you. Love you. Please don't die to that skeleton. It'll make me really sad. Yeah, go. Pollinate. I got those leads by killing that man's alpacas. Wrong button. What was I doing? What? What was I trying to find? Every morning, I wake up to the sound of something dying on my roof. And a bunch of creepers outside. I, like, straight up thought that these bitches couldn't be outside during the day. Like, what? Where's my boat? There it is. Also, what time is it? I need to watch my time. I don't want to watch my time, but I gotta. You bitches go into the gym. Even though I was like, I'm gonna play Minecraft. Oh my! It's fine, I'll probably play all day tomorrow. It's whatever. Shockingly keeps streaming. The gym! Hi, Quinn! How are you? It is nice to see you. Yes, I shall go to the gym soon. Which is okay, I like going to the gym. I mean, I really just kind of wanted to veg out and play Minecraft all night, but, like, I like going to the gym, so it'll be good. I'm fucking dumb. I didn't bring a pickaxe. Nice. How was it? Did you have fun today? I'm a friend! Ah. I think it's so fucking funny that they do that. And they like, you know, like on the ceiling vibe. Die, please! I'm sorry! I'm sorry! Close your eyes, buddy. Pretend you don't see it. You almost ate some guy. Damn. You should have done it. I almost killed a man again today. In Minecraft, obviously. He respawned in my house and I was fucking mad. I had already killed him once before for being in my house. Oh, you're part vampire. I thought about it, but I was like, he's just gonna keep fucking respawning in my house. That makes me mad. I finally did get him out of the house, though, so I'm happy with that at least. Could be worse. He could be, you know, still in my house. But it took a while for him to get the fuck out. I did the math, and my house is 594 square feet. So that's really cool. I need a lot of resources, and that's what I'm here for. Watch me drown myself on accident. I don't want to drown myself. Okay, how much do I have? Let's look. Let's look. Can I get up and out of this bitch, please? At the edge of the water, I can remember when I only have 2 full stacks, so that's not nearly enough to do anything, but for now I shall go home, because it is about time that I should probably get ready. Ah! Why? Where are you bitches coming from? Here, just blow up, please. Thank you. I'm getting better, I guess. Ooh, smite. Nice. Please smite all of your enemies for me. Smite them in my name. But I think I'm going the wrong way. So, there's that. Get away from me, bro. Wondering if the person who I'm going to the gym with knows that I'm doing this right now. Kind of surprised he hasn't popped in like, what are you doing? Get ready! Okay, where did I come from? This way? Okay, good to know that on the other side of the tree there's a treasure trove for me. Hopefully I'll remember that. We'll play Hot Fire Lady in your honor. Hell yeah. My little mans. Little bumblebutt. Where's he going? All the flowers are over there. Okay. That was good. That was a good, that was good. For everybody who came in to hang out, and for those of you who are still here, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I hope you all had a good time and that everybody has a great night. I hope I see you next time.